Maybe we can start the show now. I can't hear anybody else. Can you hear me, Aguna?
Yeah, she's going to start the show.
Good evening and welcome to Sporlitiks, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker, and my cousin Todd. Tonight we've got a full-packed show for you. President Biden signs into law same-sex marriage bill as Argentina overpowers Croatia to reach World Cup final. Georgia Senate sent Senator Warnock instead of Herschel Walker. Playoffs are almost set for the NFL as Arizona's Kristen Sinema is no longer a Democrat, and what that means for that body. Brittany Griner is released from a Russian gulag as Americans traded her for Victor Bout, known as Russia's merchant of death. The flu, RSV, and COVID, all three respiratory viruses continue to stress the healthcare system in the United States. In a season for spreading holiday cheer, experts say we are spreading so much more. Punchbowl News reports with no agreement so far on an omnibus funding package. House Democratic leader will introduce a short-term spending bill today, maybe designed to keep the federal agencies open until December 23rd. And even if they do, it may not work. Have you noticed that the cost of groceries have gone up item by item? I mean, $1, just $1 even? That and more, if we can fit it in. Let's talk about, okay, I'm not being seen. Aguna, we got you on two screens. This is amateur hour and it's getting on my nerves. I'm not being seen because I had surgery and I can't be seen. But Aguna, you've got to get rid of one of these. There you go. I just got rid of them. So let's talk about the Commanders. Stephen, I think your Commanders were on a bye this week, but they were able to move up to play up in status so they could possibly have a wild card for the playoffs. Unmute yourself, Steve. Okay. Is that true?
I'll answer for Stephen because I think he's high.
They have a definite chance of making it worse. They just need.
Okay, Stephen's having technical difficulties. He'll get back to us. What happened, Aguna?
Hey, what had happened was, well, the Eagles beat the Giants, so that actually helped the Commanders because of our decisive win over the New York Football Giants. And so now you're in a position where the Commanders, who play the Giants again, they play them back-to-back with a bye week in the middle, have a chance to really take the lead in the wild card hunt. And coincidentally enough, Carson Wentz has been activated, so he's going to be back in the lineup. Now, again, they've already declared, Ron Rivera has declared that Wentz is the backup and Heineke is the starter. But this is a do or die for both teams. I think, depending on who wins this game, they're going to really be in the driver's seat, and whoever loses is going to really be in trouble because you also have Seattle. If the playoffs started today, all NFC East teams would be in the playoff, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so there we are. But it's going to be make or break. It's almost like a playoff type game coming up against the Commanders and the Giants. And the Commanders will probably be a favorite in that game. I forget where they're playing. I think they're playing in D.C. So they're going to be home. They got a little momentum going on. And the Commanders haven't lost in the last 5 games. They've tied 1 game, but they haven't lost. So it's like they feel like they're a team of destiny to a certain degree. So it'll be interesting to see how that game plays out.
So, Aguna, can you go on to talk about the best team in the NFL right now?
Right. The Philadelphia Eagles. So it was a great game. It was a great win. I think the Eagles, they surprised me in the sense of I'm thinking that these 2 games before Christmas Eve, something weird going to happen because I know the NFL wants that game to mean a lot because when we played Dallas on Christmas Eve, you saw where Dallas played the Giants on Thanksgiving. It was one of the most watched games in football ever, history. So imagine if the Eagles play the Cowboys in Dallas, for the division. So that's why I was thinking with the Giants game, some screwy things would happen, but we ended up winning that game decisively. So now you go to Chicago, and that becomes kind of a pseudo trap game because you're on the road. The weather is going to be probably in the 40s, 30s, 40s. And Soldier Field is a real crappy turf, and there's a real crappy turf. I don't know if you remember back in like 2011 or so, we were playing Jay Cutler, and the field was basically like mud, right? But all that being said, they only won 3 games. But, you got Justin Fields. Sometimes with a mobile quarterback like that, they can get a couple plays their way, get confidence, and, they can really cause trouble. So the Eagles are 10-point favorites. But if they lose, you now go to Dallas, and now the winner of that game is kind of in the driver's seat for the championship or for the division. And again, the Eagles have to win at least 2 of the last 4 in order to claim home field and to win the division. So it'll be interesting to see that going forward. But I'm looking forward to it because I think the Eagles are on a roll right now. Jalen Hurts had a great game. He connected with A.J. Brown for a touchdown, and A.J. Brown got over 1,000 yards receiving. Miles Sanders has 1,000 total yards. So, they got a lot of weapons, and they're not even at full strength yet because Dallas Goedert's not back. Some of their corners in secondary are banged up, so they're going to get those guys back soon. And then, of course, the offensive line, knock on wood, is staying healthy. And right now, as much as the NFL is trying to say that they are, they're frauds and they haven't played anybody, they're right now one of the most complete teams in the NFL and definitely in the NFC, especially with the 49ers dealing with injuries, with the Cowboys dealing with inconsistencies, and with the Vikings who just lost to Detroit. That's also, you see some of the top teams really aren't as strong as years past. So it looks promising, but what we don't want is to go and fall short because that would mean I think it'll be the first time in sports history that the Philadelphia would lose like in the finals in like 3 or 4 major sports because you saw what happened to the Phillies in the World Series. You saw what happened to the Philadelphia Union. And now if that were to happen to the Eagles too, get to the Super Bowl and lose, oh my gosh, even though it's been a great year so far and they overachieved, that still would be a very big disappointment if the Eagles, Phillies, and Union all lost in the finals and, the city came up short with a championship on all. And the Flyers and the Sixers are already disappointments, so we'll see what happens.
But, the sad part about it is Lane Johnson is out for an injury. We still have Dallas Goedert out. And some teams, as Peyton Manning was saying last night on Monday Night Football, some teams that are just waiting to get their groove. Now, they may not have a schedule or may not have a win-loss like we do, but all they need is to find a groove and start flowing. And like you said, they can flow right by us and beat us and win.
Yeah, and this is the time of year where you have that, right? Certain teams get on a roll, like the Commanders. They haven't lost 4 or 5 games. And so you get on this hot streak. You look at Detroit. Detroit has a major win against the Vikings. You look at teams like Seattle are faltering a little bit. Even the Cowboys pulling off a last-minute win against the Texans the way they did. You get these teams that start feeling, they're overcoming adversity. They're finding ways to win. They're thinking of, that next step, and they're coming in and they're gelling as a team, and they're staying out of the injury column. I mean, because at this point in the year, you don't have 6 weeks, 7 weeks to come back and finish the season. If you go out in the last 4 to 5 weeks of the season, you're pretty much done, right? Especially, with the playoffs being right there. So this is the time of year where you got a lot of luck. You got to find your rhythm, and you got to finish off the season strong, because we've seen it time and time again where teams, you look at the Steelers last year, you look at, the Baltimore Ravens went through where they're on this they only lost one game, and next thing you know, they hit a wall in December, and they're one and done in the playoffs. So you don't want to get into that rut either as you close out the year.
So, Stephen, did you want to talk about your Commanders while you were having the difficulties? Aguna filled in for you.
I know. I don't know what he said because I didn't hear what anybody said because I was struggling to get back on. We have a great opportunity this weekend. I don't know what you heard from me either. But we have a great opportunity to beat the Giants. We just played them 2 weeks ago, and we ended in a tie at their home. They're going to come our place, and we're going to do everything that we can. Everybody is, not even just the people on the field, but they're buying people's tickets left and right. There's players and everybody that's buying people's tickets so they can come and watch the game, because this is huge. If the Washington team, Redskins, if they can win, a couple more games, I think they'll be okay. They got a hard game in between coming up. It's the 49ers, and I don't care if it's me or Aguna or Todd or Stacy or Keith at quarterback. It's going to be hard to beat them because they're pretty incredible. So we're not at that level. And I say we now because I've been a fan for all my life. For 39 years, I've been a fan of the Washington Redskins, and I'm not going to stop now just because somebody.
You are not 39 years old.
Yeah, and don't, Aguna, please don't put any self-fulfilling prophecies out there and look at the other teams in Philly and actually speak the words. You don't do that because things like that can make that happen. So don't do that. Keep positive. Keep real positive. There is no team that's better than the Eagles right now. Nobody can dispute that.
But that's
They're
what we were saying.
Around and around, great.
But
if
we
they
were saying it doesn't.
Two guys in,
Stephen,
Monica and Sue and somebody else, then they would have.
But Stephen, we were
saying
saying that doesn't matter. We were saying, Stephen, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter that our team is really good, because Peyton Manning was saying last night on Monday Night Football that most teams, regardless of their wins and losses right now, are waiting to get into grooves so they can just sail through the playoffs. So schedules and what they've won and what they lost doesn't have anything to do with that.
But you have such a complete team, and you have the best quarterback that's playing football today. There's nobody better than him. He's absolutely amazing. And it's everything, the whole combination of the whole team. I don't think anybody can beat you. I was worried about San Francisco taking you out and keeping you out of the Super Bowl because they had something really, really going on. But people are going to figure out this kid, the last guy drafted for a reason. They're going to figure him out. Yeah, and
I agree with that. And you got Deebo Samuel is kind of nicked up, so that's why Washington has a chance against them. I mean, they do have a really good defense. D'Amico Ryans, the D coordinator there, has got put together really good. But the thing is, I also think their defense is a little suspect as well. They got great linebackers. Don't get me wrong. They got some good DNs. They don't have good D tackles, and their secondary is nicked up and kind of spotty at best. So if the linebackers and the DNs aren't getting to you, you have a chance to kind of, open up a little bit against that team. Now, their offense on the offensive side of the ball with Purdy at quarterback, you got McCaffrey, With
Right.
Debo not being there, that's going to be a problem. But
It hurts.
they do have some. They do have a high power offense. You saw what they did to Tampa Bay. They just really
Yeah.
steamrolled.
If
Yeah, but if they
Debo
would
was
get
healthy,
some
y'all would have something
decent
to worry about.
forwards in there, then they wouldn't have anything to worry about. Don't you think?
And Todd, if
maybe-
you going, not. I know you're very religious, but are you going to a call to prayer right now? What is
What
that?
are you talking about?
I don't know. Is that okay? I don't know. Sorry.
I thought your hat looked good, Todd. I'm looking for a hat like that, but I want a red one for like Christmas. I
So
like
cousin
that
Todd,
Mhm.
so cousin Todd, do you know what a secondary is?
Yes, ma'am. It's a forward without all the dress up.
Todd, you do look good in camel, though. Hopefully that's I
look
got
good
you. You
in
need to stick to that fashion.
everything.
All right. So Stephen, Aguna did mention while you were gone that your quarterback is back up and ready to go. Carson Wentz.
Oh yeah, they got to keep Wentz happy. It was a big slap in the face to him because they paid him so much money, and he's done really great things in the league. I mean, he's a great quarterback that hasn't been great at times. Everybody slumps, but Heineke right now has got everything going for the Redskins. Because the team loves him. They even wear shirts with his face on it. But you know what, Heineke and any quarterback can get taken out at any time. So they have to have Wentz ready, a little bit mad, and determined to come out because he's an older guy that needs to prove that he can still play. He can still make it with everybody. But they're not going to do anything to knock Heineke out of there unless he starts losing.
But here's my thing. Heineke is the guy. Wentz has always been put on a pedestal. First round draft pick, top draft pick. He doesn't want to come out there and compete. That's his problem in Philadelphia. As soon as they got some competition in there, he got all in his feelings. He didn't want to play. He didn't want to go. He want to take his ball and go home. So does Wentz have the mental toughness to just sit on the bench? And again, people have been pretty down on him for a while. Then meanwhile, you got Heineke, and Heineke, he is going. This is a contract year for him. He'll be a free agent after this season, and he's kind of undersized, right? So he's a shorter quarterback. Nowadays in the league, they want the 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" plus guy that's going to be mobile in the pocket, whatever, right? And Heineke, he had not taking anything away from his heart. And again, as a backup, you just want that shot. You just want to get on the field and have that shot. But I don't think they're very confident in him long term. They're going to try to ride this horse until the end of the season, but I don't think they're committing to him to say he's that guy. Now, granted, he may be a guy someplace, meaning I don't see 32. They're not like 30 plus quarterbacks that are starting right now in the NFL that are better than Heineke, right? So he may be a starter somewhere, but I doubt if the Washington Commanders are going to commit to him, just because I get that they want a proven veteran. They don't want to develop anybody. They want somebody to come in there and that kind of lead the team, and they want to sell the team. So they don't want to come in,
But according to the numbers, Heineke is horrible. He's impressive and he's fun to watch, but his numbers are horrible. I think out of 38 quarterbacks that have played this year, 39, I think he's 38. That's what the numbers show. You know what else? He never runs. He's run maybe once or twice or something, but he never runs. But he looks like
you don't
he's
want him to.
I mean,
if he's running, that means your O-line's not doing their job. You don't want a guy running at quarterback all the time.
Maybe he doesn't run because he doesn't want to get hurt. I don't know. But he is a little undersized, even short. He's undersized, but he worked out a lot over the offseason, and he's trying to get better. He's trying to be a better quarterback. But the team is winning despite his quarterback attributes. Carson Wentz could be quarterback. What is happening is the team is taking him in like a little brother, and they're playing so hard for him. And that's when it's like a movie. It doesn't even make sense. None of this makes sense. Heineke is this big compared to your quarterback that's 8 feet tall. That's what the problem is right now. But you can't sit him. And that's why the coach is saying, hey, I got a quarterback. We're going to put him in there. He's second string. We do what we can. But if this little is hurt, Wentz has to be ready to go because you can't hurt his feelings too much. You have to keep him in the fold. So when the time comes, he can get in there and win the game.
All right, let's move on. I want to move on specifically to, I don't know if you can see this. Let me share my screen. This is foxnews.com. I think you can see this. Brittany Griner. She was released. She arrived at the San Antonio Medical Facility last week after her release last Thursday as part of a prisoner exchange between the U.S. and Russia for the notorious convicted arms dealer, Victor Bout. Cousin Todd, let's start with you. How do you feel about her being released from custody as a United States Marine veteran? Paul Whelan was left in Russia, as you can see this foxnews.com story. And let me just add a little bit more, Cousin Todd, before you answer. This particular Dallas Cowboy linebacker, Micah Parsons, as you can see him right there, number 11, said he believed, and I'll keep going, when he tweeted, he said, "We still not voting for you, President Biden." He said, "My last tweet was no shot at Brittany Griner. I'm super happy she's back home as she should be. I just have family who have served. And it's crazy to me the president wouldn't bring him home too. I'm furthest from a Trump supporter, but I'm not a fan of Biden either." Cousin Todd.
Well, he's speaking out of emotion, which most people do, in those kinds of situations, because he didn't go over and negotiate to have Paul released. So I don't know what he's talking about, as if to say, oh, they wanted to leave Paul there and bring this girl home. It's just dumb. They were going to send either one or none, and they chose her. Now, it's strange how Republicans are talking about Paul being left over there, but I didn't even know Paul was there.
He's not Republican. He just said, "Hello, ma'am. He just said,
Am
I'm
I
not a
talking
Trump
or are
supporter."
you talking?
Look at this.
Let
Read
me
this. I don't know if
finish,
you can
ma'am.
read.
Let me finish
no,
what I'm saying. This is what a Trump supporter does.
My
They'll
last
cut you
tweet
off, and they will
no
try to
shot
hijack.
at Brittany Griner. I'm super happy she's back home as she should be. I just have family who served, and it's crazy to me the president wouldn't bring him home too. I'm the furthest thing from a Trump supporter, but I'm not a fan of Biden
Now,
either.
why
So
did you
you
waste?
just mentioned, because
Oh,
you just
my
mentioned
Lord, this girl's
Republicans
wasting
do this.
all of my
This
time.
boy isn't Republican. He's not Republican. So what are you talking about?
Can I finish what I was saying, Republican, Trump supporter? Thank you.
I'm not a Trump supporter.
Sure you are.
Call on your friend Keith and Stephen. Don't call on me.
Okay, and this is what these Trump supporters do. They block your time talking, and then they say, got to move on. So like I was trying to say.
You're right. Thanks. Got to move on.
Dumb people who speak from emotion, no facts, just emotion.
So you're saying Micah Parsons is a dumb person speaking from emotions?
God, help me.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm going to tell you what I'm saying. If you would allow me the space to use English. Now, what I'm saying is this. People like him are speaking from emotion because he didn't go negotiate either of their releases. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. The president wanted both of them home, but Russia said no. Putin said no. And Republicans love Putin. All of Fox News loves Putin. So he said no. So what are you going to do? Now, I didn't even know Paul's name for years when Donald Trump was in office, when he first got kidnapped by the Russians, because Trump And the Republicans said nothing about him. Trump never tried to get him home. Now Joe Biden is in office, and now all they can talk about is the captured over in Russia. It is amazing to me how
this is who you're
contradicting
talking
these
about,
people
Micah
are.
Parsons. And we're talking about his comment, and this is all that you've got to say. Aguna.
Yeah, I said he's dumb. Why would he equate the military with being kidnapped?
He just said, Aguna, he just said my family has served.
That's dumb. That's a dumb statement. Don't equate the two. My family served, so leave her there and bring them home. Yeah, that's dumb.
You know, a lot of times, you know, Americans, we've been very spoiled, right? So it's always tit for tat, right? So it's either or. It can't be either and. And to think that, you know, Paul Whelan, he's a former Marine, right? So he was there on a contract or for business, and then they detained him and they took him into custody because
they're saying that he stole. They're saying he stole Russian documents from Russia.
Right. So just think about this. Think about it. They said that he stole Russian documents. So they accused him of being a spy, former Marine, versus an athlete that had weed. You know, now, of course, as Americans, we're looking at, oh, well, he's a decorated guy. Look at the crime, though. They probably had some suspicion of what Whelan is doing. And I think based on the storyline, they wanted 2 people for Whelan, and they only wanted 1 for Brittany Griner, who's this Russian, you know, arms dealer who's been in jail for like 10 to 15 years already or something like that. So, I mean, it's not, you know, when the State Department engages these foreign countries, you know, it's not always just black and white where, okay, this person's getting this. There's a lot of negotiations. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of, you know, sanctions. There's all kind of different things playing out. And for Biden to get anything is good. But at the same time, he's not going to please everybody. People are going to find something to be upset about, regardless of what Biden did. If Biden didn't do anything, they would be upset about it. They were upset about it when he wasn't doing enough. Now he did it, and now it's like he should have done this. Okay, if he would have got Whelan in exchange like 5 Russian operatives for Whelan, then they're going to say he did too much. You know, so and again, I think Todd made a good point about Trump being able to have done it while he was in office. But I mean, why can't we as Americans just say, okay, good, we got somebody. I know we could do more. Hopefully we in the next, you know, months or whatever ahead, we can try to find ways to negotiate. But I guarantee you, there's a reason why Russia wanted more than just a 1-for-1 swap when it came to Whelan. They have something, or they think they have something. There's something going on there where they think that he's a more high profile than Brittany Griner. Again, Brittany Griner is Olympic. You know, but she's an athlete. She's not over there spying or anything. They're accusing him of spying and being a double agent and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's not the same thing.
So, Stephen, if you look at this screen I have, it says, Micah Parsons said, just spoke to some people that I respect and trust. I should have been more educated on the topic and not tweeted out of emotion for my family and other who have served. For that, I apologize.
See, also, emotion. That's what I was just talking about.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. Trump supporter. Also, if what I'm told about the attempts to bring retired Marine Paul Whelan home are true, then the best outcome was accomplished. I pray Mr. Whelan comes home, but I'm extremely happy for Brittany and her family. I'm not too prideful to admit when I've made a mistake. What do you think about him saying that, Stephen?
Now, who said that again?
Micah Parsons, the same NFL player who said he should have brought home
exactly what I just said about him. He came to his senses.
Thank you, Stephen.
I love Micah. I don't care that he plays for the. I don't care that Micah plays for the Cowboys. I love Micah, and I love his heart, and I love the fact that he understands people who serve, and they're in his family, and they're his friends, and they're the ones who are sacrificing everything so we can have our freedoms. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
What do you appreciate specifically? What are you talking about?
The fact that he took offense to this because a Marine stayed back. But let me put my point on this, Todd.
Oh, so she should have stayed and the Marine should have come home. That's what you mean?
Please. I'm not being disrespectful. Please let me speak. As long as you've known me, I've been consistent. Women need to be treated differently But whatever her preference or what if she identifies as whatever she identifies here, to me, she's a woman. And as a man, we need to protect our women. That's a woman. That's somebody potentially vulnerable, even though she could probably kick my ass 10 times out of 10. I don't know, but she's still a woman, and that's why that's why you do it. I agree with you that there are bigger charges than this. These are really small charges. This is something they just wanted to do, and they got a guy that he's as bad as bin Laden. But as bad as bin Laden is, as bad as everybody made bin Laden to be and made him the man he was. People make this guy, different countries use this guy to get weapons, to do what they can do to make themselves better and say, well, he's the guy that's the bad guy. Look at the bad guy. And I don't consider it a bad trade. I think it was a one thing that went right for the administration that I can call out, because she's a woman, he's a man, he has stiffer charges. It's the no-brainer. Maybe there's somebody else there. Oh, wait a minute. There is somebody else there. He's a white guy. He's about my age, and he had less weed than she did, but he's been there for a couple of years. Maybe they could have combined the two of them to get both of them out of Russia at the same time. It's not asking for a lot. It's not asking for a guy they consider a spy.
No.
What's wrong with this guy? And that's where I don't have any. I'm not in anybody's box.
Right.
I'm saying we can agree on some things, and I think it's hard to not agree that she's a woman, and you have to treat her differently.
This same white guy you're talking about, Donald Trump didn't try to get him home.
I didn't say it was white. I said it was a guy
negotiated. Again, it's contingent on Russia, right? It's not like you can't assume that the Biden administration hasn't been trying, and all this other stuff. These are high profile. It's a high profile prisoner exchange, right? And they'd be like, no, they want something else. I mean, again, I think with Michael Parsons, the only problem I have with Michael Parsons' statement is, you don't jump out there and just go straight political, right? It's bad enough these people's lives are disrupted by being in this hostage situation. To make it about Biden and Trump, it's like, why are you throwing your head in the fire like that? Yeah. Because there are things that Trump could have done more. Well, I mean, he released a lot of the Taliban and all these guys in Afghanistan, which led to the fall of Afghanistan. So it's like you want to go in there and start, tumbling in the mud, without context. It's to Stephen's point, you got the best you could get out of this situation. Now, whether this arms dealer is going to go off and somehow, again, it's an arms dealer. The world is full of guns. I think first thing, you guys are Second Amendment right, folks. He's dealing with arms, so you should want this guy. Really, what does this guy do, right? Other than what other countries do anyway, which is peddle arms, right? That's what the U.S. does. I mean, it's like, okay, but maybe he's not on the right side, right? So at the end of the day, she had a little bit of weed. He's selling arms, which is what we were going to do anyway. He's a vessel for what foreign governments use, like Stephen was saying, to get arms into certain countries.
And I think he only had 5 years to go.
Yeah, he has 5 years to go. Right? So it's like, and again, it's not that, again, they're going to make it about liking Biden. That's where Parsons got it wrong. It's not whether you like Biden or not, whether you like Trump or not. This is a situation where what we as Americans can do to get something out of something. We're working in exchange with the Russians. Yes. Why can't we just celebrate the fact that, we got a citizen home, we got an Olympic athlete.
It's not
home.
About the military. You're pitting a civilian against the military. That's what he was doing.
It's a false narrative. It's a false narrative.
He did it. No, but Micah did it without having Micah. He's busy. He's preparing for a game. We look at all of this stuff. All of us on here look at it. So that's his defense. He came back and said, I was ignorant.
I disagree. Because if you're focusing on those things, just like Kyrie tweeting stuff, you don't go out there on social media if you don't have context. To Todd's point about emotionally responding to things without knowing, I'm not going to sit here and talk about nuclear physicist stuff if I don't have any business doing that.
Aguna, it really hurt Park, and he had to express himself.
I gotta get Keith.
It really hurt him. Where was he?
And he had to express himself.
There are a lot of wounded warriors. There are a lot of wounded warriors that are going through a lot from the VA perspective, coming back home with PTSD and all this other stuff. There's a lot of things that we should be getting offended about with all of us who have military people in our families that we can speak to, Michael Parsons was grandstanding, and he needs to mature a little bit. Again, I mean, it's like, put some things in context. You made it political. You made it about liking and not liking the president. Again, we have to put this country, we want to put the country first. It's bigger than Biden. It's bigger than Trump. We're trying to get a citizen home. So why do you have to make it about that?
So Keith, tell us what you think about them not
He made it political for no reason. I agree.
Tell us about what you think about them not bringing former U.S. Marine U.S. Marine Whelan not home.
That question is improper.
I really.
Todd. Wait a minute, Keith. Todd, like Aguna said, you look improper. Go ahead, Keith.
I have to admit that it's not. It's. I guess that's who Russia chose to release. So I'm not going to blame Biden.
Very smart, Keith. I can't believe you.
A butt is coming. A butt is coming.
No,
Go ahead. Butt.
Well, let me finish. I want to give you the butt.
I know it's coming.
Even I'm not going to, be honest with you. That's what Biden, I guess, took what he could get. That's what Russia said. They released that person. It was a wrong person, but, that's what we get. But as far as Brittany, let me just make the comment. And this is the part I know Aguna's not going to like and Todd's not going to like. The part I want to say that, she has made comments and said, we shouldn't have to stand for the national anthem. We should not even sing the national anthem. So she, has made some anti-American comments in her own country. I just hope that she'll be grateful. Let's put it that way. Let's hope that she's come home and she's happy and grateful that she made it home. There you go.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks, especially like on January 6th, that, they are executing what they feel is a right? And you still have to be accountable and be held, have consequences for your actions. And you turn around and say the same country that we sometimes try to tear down, we rush to her call when it's convenient for us, right? So, I think that's just part of the fabric of being an American citizen. That's why you can look at a Kaepernick kneeling and understand that he's executing his freedom of speech, and be also grateful that people fought and died for the freedom of him
right
to do that.
And you can also look at people carrying the Confederate flag, and even though they are considered traitors, they're still Americans, even carrying the Confederate flag.
I agree.
Which I think is a bigger slap in the face than kneeling or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I agree with you guys.
Cousin Todd, you're looking at, I'm sharing my screen, World Cup. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Grant Wall, who worked in Qatar last month.
Running their own country.
He passed away. Cousin Todd, do you want to tell us the story about Grant Wall?
What happened? He was so young.
He was a writer. I didn't know his work really, because he was a sports writer. Even though I know all about sports, I just wasn't so familiar with him. But he was feeling ill for the past week, and he was in Qatar reporting on the games and football. Some call it soccer. And anyway, he was feeling ill, and he went to the hospital twice, to the ER to be seen. He had a cough, and he just wasn't feeling well, and he talked about it on his podcast. And while at the game, he passed out, and I don't think he ever recovered. And they rushed him to the hospital, and he was pronounced dead at 49 years old. And so they're doing an autopsy now to determine what the cause of death was.
They brought him back. We don't know. They brought him back from there to the United States to do an autopsy. But his brother, Todd, that's not the story. You wasted 3 minutes on that. The story is what about his brother, Cousin Todd?
Well, the story, I don't want to involve his brother. He just wore a T-shirt, and this is what Republicans like you do, Trump supporters. He wore a T-shirt, a rainbow T-shirt to the games, and they wouldn't allow him to go in the games with that T-shirt on, and they detained him for about 30 minutes. And then they did allow him to go in after 30 minutes.
And what was the T-shirt about?
It was a rainbow T-shirt.
That implied what?
He likes a rainbow.
No, it implied equality, LGBTQ plus equality, because his brother is a member of that community. And he was promoting it.
Right, but whether his brother is a member of it or not.
But that's why he was doing it, for his brother. Because he loves his brother.
He was doing it for the community. He was doing it for fairness. And he doesn't think people should be discriminated against.
And
even if you are Black and you want to marry somebody white, you should be allowed to do that. And not
so we're not going into that. You can't try to take us into something else.
Stacey,
we're not going into that.
Vaccinated? Was he vaccinated?
I don't know. They didn't say. If you look at this screen that I'm showing you, it says he Grant Wall 49, and this is according to the NewYorkPost.com. They said Grant Wall 49 had a death rattle cough from a stubborn case. I'm trying to move it so you can see it. From a stubborn case of bronchitis shortly before he collapsed while covering Argentina's quarterfinal win against the Netherlands, his brother Eric Wall said. Eric previously speculated that foul play may have been involved, since the soccer writer was an outspoken critic of the Qatar government and received death threats after wearing a rainbow shirt to a match. That was the whole point, Cousin Todd, which he didn't get to at all.
I want to know if he's vaccinated. Let's see.
I don't know. Aguna, do you want to talk a little bit to...
What does that got to do with it?
That's a Trump supporter trying to make an issue out of a non-issue.
Any type of... Did he have a runny nose or anything? I mean,
But Tuesday, excuse me, look at this article. It says, but Tuesday, the brother wrote on Twitter, the family will release a statement as to the cause of death soon. I no longer suspect foul play. It was not pulmonary embolism. Talk about Aguna, Cutter's role, and what they're doing with this.
Stacey, they said it was bronchitis. Stacey, they said it was bronchitis. Remember a couple years ago, they would have said it was COVID.
Yeah, because we got to make something political out of someone's death. That's what we do on this show.
Trump supporters. That's what they do. They're sick.
To Stacey's original question, Qatar, they do not.
No, it's not. It's
that's not part of their culture, right? They're one of these countries that people may say it's homophobic or whatever, but part of this is, they have certain human rights issues when it comes to certain things, sexuality being one of them, right? The way they treat women, all this other stuff is coming to question. FIFA selected this country to host the World Cup. And so when we select this country to host the whole World Cup, now we go to this country and we try to bring our values, our perspectives, our rights, and all these things and throw it in their face and expect them to be like, okay, you know what? You're right. We're going to throw away centuries of culture and who we are to respect who you are. Because
centuries of discrimination and sexism. But I understand your point.
Well, I mean, I get that. I know. I'm not condoning it. But the thing is, when we go into these situations, we're trying to impose our values on other countries,
I
that we've agreed to, to partner with and things like that. It's almost like, hey, you know what? We're going to accept certain aspects of your culture that we agree with, but the other ones, we're going to get right in your face and in your communities and everything and tell you, hey, you know what, you're wrong, and you will do what we Americans do. Even though America, has only been around for 200 some odd years, right? These countries have been around fighting and in their thing for centuries.
So, absolutely.
I mean, this is now a Rocky movie. You're not going to go over there and beat Drago and then ramble some words about America and change all the hearts and minds of the people. These are indoctrinated in their culture. So we as Americans need to also look at that when we come in there and try to change things and then beat our chest and say, look at us, Tommy speaking on a hill.
America, that LGBTQI +3, they can do so well in this country that they can't do in so many other countries. But this country gets beaten up every day saying we're so hard to that community, and they're not. Everybody's open arms to people. They love people. If, gay people
Okay,
can get
you're
married in this
delusional.
country. They can do what they want.
They
Well,
could
I-
not
well,
get
I mean, they're
married in
still-
this
again, it's
country.
Gay people,
Well,
They
they
could.
don't. Right.
They won't
Okay.
get killed per
Let
se,
me say this.
but there's still a long way to go. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Ty.
But they don't get killed.
About-
They get killed more than anybody else.
Look, we're evolving.
Okay.
We're all evolving.
I was going to say when Aguna was talking about how this country.
Yeah, but that's why America is so because this country's so open to everybody.
Todd, we love everybody, Todd. We love everybody.
Okay.
Even the camel beanie. You know, it's just one of those things that we just embrace. Go ahead, Todd.
Okay. Oh, forget it now because it's too long to go back because I'd have to go all the way back. Forget it.
Thank you, Aguna. Who's up in the World Cup now?
But this is a typical Republican trick. I have a good, valid point with some meat to it, but because these Republicans babble on and deliberately take up my time.
Look, I didn't know the topic was Serena. I mean, that's the only substantive comments you have is when you're talking about Serena Williams. So here's the thing. We got France versus Argentina. That's going to be a good one. Different styles. Mbappe versus Messi. It's going to be one of them things. It's like a Royal Rumble. Well, I don't know because Morocco has to play France first. I can't look past them either, right? It's going to be one of those things where, you know, the colonizer versus the colony, whatever they want to call it, right? But then I predict it's going to be France versus Argentina. I just think France has a lot of firepower. Morocco is one of those teams that they have a good defense. They'll hang around. They hang around. You saw how they beat, was it Spain? It's one of the, Portugal lost to, it was either Spain or Portugal they beat, whatever. But they hung around. They went to PKs and they won it in PKs because the cool thing about soccer or football is it's not about who you are. Any given Sunday or whatever, a team that isn't as tactical or as skilled can win by just playing defense or some of how the things play out, especially if you take it to PKs and things like that. So you have these Cinderella moments like you have Morocco, which would, if they beat France, they'll be the first African country to ever reach the World Cup final. But Argentina is tough, man. You know, Messi, I mean, they had 3 goals today against Croatia. Well, I was like, man, how does this guy even do this stuff? So it's interesting. I wanted to see Argentina versus Brazil, but Brazil got knocked out by Croatia in PKs. Again, they hung around. Brazil scored late, but Croatia had an equalizer in overtime to take it to PKs, and then they won it in PKs. And Brazil, I don't know if you guys remember years ago when Germany won the World Cup down in Brazil, it was like a national day of mourning when Brazil got knocked out the World Cup and got destroyed by Germany. I think they lost by like 10 goals or something like that. It was the most embarrassing thing in their country's history almost. But that is how powerful soccer is to them. So it's going to be interesting to see what the final looks like. I'm predicting France versus Argentina. And I think Argentina is going to win it all because I just don't. Messi, he's playing some great ball right now. They did stumble against Japan in the group stage, but we'll see what happens. But Messi, he looks like he's a phenomenal player. If you guys ever watch him, watch how he dribbles. Just watch. He's a little guy, but he has just such great ball skill and how he plays in misdirections and things like that. It's amazing to watch him play. So if you have time, watch the game. If not, just watch him on YouTube. You can see some of the amazing goals that he does. But it'll be interesting to see him and Mbappe go at it if France plays Argentina.
All right. Thank you. President Biden signed today. I think he signed it a while ago, but last week when it came to his desk. But today he signed into law the gay marriage bill at the White House. Keith, do you want to talk about, let me add it to the stream though. That's the wrong one. About President Biden signing, the importance of him signing into law the same-sex marriage and interracial marriage act?
Well, as I said before many times, and I'll say it again, this is an unconstitutional act because it does not reflect the laws of nature and of nature's God, which are set in the Declaration of Independence for our form of government, being a republic. So I would not protect gay marriage. Instead, they cast out protecting traditional marriage. DOMA was overturned by a judge, even though the people voted to keep it, for DOMA. DOMA was a Defense of Marriage Act years ago that Clinton, a Democrat at the time, signed, he signed into law. The legislature passed it and he signed it into law. So now a judge overturned it. So
why
DOMA,
are you so against mixed
so why
marriages?
would we overturn DOMA? Traditional marriage should be protected, but now it's not protected. Gay marriage has invaded.
Why are you against
states.
mixed marriages?
Mixed marriages have
It's
nothing
not.
to do with gay marriage. Gay marriage has to do with a biological misfunction. But I am not biologically a mistake, being black. Neither are you.
Well, that's not what they said about you. You were part ape. And so you have no business marrying a white woman. You should be thrown in jail for that kind of a sin.
That has nothing to do with natural law. Natural law says I can marry the woman that I choose to marry.
No, not in America. No,
That's
you
what
must.
it should be.
You
That's
must not race
Yes, you
mix.
can in America.
That's America.
You must not race mix.
that's
When
not
you're
true.
race mixing, you'll be
Oh, you're
lynched
calling
for
it
that.
I am saying that this is wrong and
No,
God
you
will
won't.
judge.
No, you won't talk.
So according to the founding
God will judge.
fathers, you should be lynched for putting your hands on a
No.
white woman for less than that even looking at her.
I just
You're a
explained
false
it.
witness, Todd.
I just explained it. Color is not the same as
That's
sexual.
not what they said.
No,
They said you
no,
were 3/5 human.
I don't care
You were
what they
coon, and you belong in the jungle, not touching white women.
I don't care what
And
they
so you and Clarence Thomas would be
you what the
thrown
law-
in jail.
and of nature's
Is
God
it-
said.
There a reason-
Okay, all right. I
So,
think
but
Keith,
Keith,
we're not
so-
talking anything serious.
Now, is there a
So,
reason you
so
hate-
Keith, let me ask you this, okay? Because again, I understand what you're saying, but I do think this is taking the law out of the judges or the judiciary branch's hands. Congress is actually doing their job. They're making laws. Now, one of the things that you're bringing up is about the whole aspect, because I know back when Clinton was debating that DOMA bill, it was all about the word marriage. Because again, some people said, hey, we don't want marriage to be defined as between a man and a man or a woman and a woman. It has to be a man and a woman, because the word marriage was so tied to religion and so tied to
Which
a lot
has
of
nothing
cultural
to
things.
do with religion.
And so to this point, my position on this has always been, I just don't want the government involved, right? So if the government makes a law that, hey, you as a person can choose who you love, and I think that is between you and your God, how that plans out. The government should be out of that way. So if this law is taking away government's ability to intrude on your private affairs, because again, I get it. We have religion, we have our own personal opinions of what same-sex marriage should be and shouldn't be. But I just don't think that the government has a role in trying to define that for us, because if they do, we're going to go down that slippery slope of tyranny, which I thought people like you and Stephen were against. Because again, when you start talking about the intrusiveness of government, because again, you start defining same sex as a man and a man, the government can tax it. So they probably want some aspect of this to happen. But at the same time, it's all about staying
the
out.
tyranny of it. Aguna,
Staying
I
out of
agree with
people's
you on
bedroom.
that.
Well,
You know,
Aguna,
It's the tyranny. I agree with you.
let
on
me
that.
respond to Aguna. Stephen, let me respond to Aguna with this
But
word.
they should call
I'll
it
say
something else.
that who is the one who is infringing? Who is the one that is asserting themselves and their ideas? It is the gay community. They're the ones that brought their own.
And I do,
What do you
I get your point on that, because a
How
lot
do
of
you
times
get his point
it's
on
on
that?
television. Well, this is the debate. This is the debate we have here, right?
Go
It's on
ahead.
television.
Let me hear this dumb
When
debate.
we hear, if you say something that you don't feel comfortable, you see something you're not comfortable with, and you speak out against it, all of a sudden you're being demonized. So I get
No, you're being what you are, biased or racist or sexist or
that.
homophobic.
But at the same time, I don't think the gay community is doing anything directly to you. We're kind of getting offended at the fact that they're asserting themselves on our ideas, which makes us uncomfortable.
Offended because they want to be able to do what you do.
Boy, Todd is really.
And so
I'm not denying that, Todd. But some people have a hard time dealing with that.
That's
right?
their stupidity.
And I don't care
about their hard time. I have a hard time dealing with stupidity.
But I think this is where the debate kind of gets lost, because there are many people, especially in the Black community, right, who do not equate LGBTQ rights to civil rights when it comes to race.
But
right?
That's their
we don't equate the two. In fact, we feel that things have kind of been railroaded because you're conflating these two issues that really, to Keith's point, and again, I'm not necessarily saying, hey, Keith is correct here, but he's pointing out the fact that we are humans, and
it's your ignorance that's allowing that. I'm going to cut you off.
It means he's right.
I'm going to cut you off.
It means he's right.
This is the issue, Todd. We can't even have a conversation about it. We can't even have a conversation because it's either all or nothing.
You're
either against gay people or you're not.
Mute yourself, because I've got to make some serious points.
So hey, but
hey, shh.
My whole original point, Tom, was the government should stay out of it
anymore. You want to get married to Keith? Let me say this.
All right.
I don't believe marriage has anything to do.
Gay people doing their thing.
Hey.
We love everybody. We love everybody, Todd.
Can you all mute yourselves?
No.
I don't think marriage has anything to do with the Bible. I think they've infringed on the Bible. But I really don't think marriage has anything to do with the Bible, because they were allowed to have several wives. Remember,
you never read the Bible.
That's natural. That's natural. That's natural, Ty.
Abraham,
you never read the Bible.
Listen to me carefully. Abraham, Jacob, David, and Solomon. Remember those guys?
But it was marriage. He was married to multiple wives, but still was marriage.
Yes. 700 and 300 concubines.
You're just
Did
wrong.
you hear what I just said? 700 wives and 300
that
shut up. 300
just
concubines.
Don't take
Are you talking marriage or monogamy? Are you talking marriage or monogamy, Ty?
Polygamy. That's called polygamy.
Okay.
So
and
all
from
of
a cultural standpoint, that was accepted because a lot of times people died in childbirth. You need as many kids as possible to work the land.
Hey, dummy.
The Bible says to multiply. If you have more wives, you multiply.
Why can't you do that now then? Why can't you have 700 wives now?
I don't think you can multiply in same sex. You can't.
Go ahead, Cousin Todd.
Whew. Okay, my point was, I don't think it's biblical at all. These people had 700 wives and concubines and things like that. So now all of a sudden God changed, but God never changes, and said, oh, you know what? Now you don't need 700 wives, just have one. Get out of my face. All of it is sheer nonsense. You can marry who you want to marry, period. Just like blacks were allowed to marry white women, which is more dangerous, really, if you think about it, because you're liable to get lynched, Keith.
Last time on the show, Keith was like, can you marry a dog if you want to?
Dog. That kind of stupidity. Yeah.
So you go that slippery stuff.
Okay. If you want to marry a 5-year-old, Todd? What if you want to marry
a 5-year-old? Well, that's kind of what your people do, isn't it? Their cousins and all that kind of stuff. You've been married 3, 4, 5
Who are my people that want to screw 5-year-olds, Todd? Who are my people that want to do that?
Whites.
White people want to have sex with 5-year-olds. How old was Muhammad's wife? How old was Muhammad's wife?
What are you talking about Muhammad for? I'm talking about people that marry their cousins and all at 13. At 13 years old.
Was she old enough?
Okay, I gotta move on. I'm sorry. I gotta move on.
Me or anybody like me.
Let's talk about what happened last week. Excuse me.
I don't know who Muhammad is, so I know.
Okay, excuse me. Let's talk about what happened last week. I want to show you this screen that Aguna insisted that I show Stephen last when was that? Last Wednesday. However, I knew that if I were to show Stephen that last Wednesday, I would have gotten absolutely no rest the entire day of Wednesday. Aguna, go ahead and say what you had to say to Stephen about that screen.
At this point in the show, we've been on this show for so long. I'm used to Stephen being wrong. Okay, I know I'm used to him being wrong about elections, wrong about debates. I still love him though, but again, he was wrong last Tuesday. He got on here, and I told him, I was like, look, they're neck and neck, and 93% of the precincts are reporting in Georgia. However, DeKalb County, Fulton County, Cobb County only have 50% of the votes in. So if Herschel Walker isn't running way ahead of Warnock this late in the game, it's a wrap. And sure enough, it was a wrap. Now, it shouldn't even have been this close, okay? This has been the biggest minstrel show that I have seen in decades in this country. The guy was not fit to be a senator. And again, Herschel Walker, he didn't have a platform. He got up on the debate. He said he was going to win this election. Did he not say he was going to win this election? So, I mean, it's stuff like that. It's stuff like that.
Well,
I mean, this guy was a complete circus. And it was funny because as soon as he lost,
okay, why wasn't he a circus?
The same thing. They said, he wasn't a serious candidate.
He's been accused, listen, Aguna, he's been accused of trying to have sex with kids. He's been accused of brutally beating his wife and abusing her and running over her with the car.
Are you talking? So you're trying to Are you talking about Herschel Walker? You're talking about Herschel Walker? You're talking about Herschel Walker, right?
Who's a preacher said Jesus would be cool.
You're talking about Herschel Walker, right? You're talking about Herschel Walker, right? You're talking about Herschel Walker. I don't know who you're talking about.
Jesus would be cool with abortions.
Look, see, and then this is why, and this is exactly why, Herschel Walker wasn't a serious candidate, because you're going to try to dig up all this dirt on Warnock. Look at his voting record when it comes to what about his voting record when it comes to protecting military families? You look at Donald Trump's record. So you talk about all these people's characters, but then you don't vote on character when it comes to the candidate he's against. Herschel Walker was not only a far worse candidate, he was a far worse human being. Warnock voted to protect military families. Warnock voted, he's a very moderate, almost conservative Democrat. But you don't know that because all you know, you see the D and you just go down this whole rabbit hole of nonsense.
No,
he's a preacher.
Pastor, you dumb black loogie.
You're not a good guy.
So why should I have voted for Herschel Walker, Stephen, in your opinion?
Because he's great in bed.
What were the issues that Herschel Walker just moved to? He didn't even live in Georgia.
Have a balance in the Senate you have now.
So let's stop right there. You didn't want to vote for him because of what you didn't want to vote for him because of what his beliefs were. You just wanted that to be an R in the Senate, so there's a balance of power.
No,
does that make sense to you?
His beliefs.
Okay, so what were his beliefs?
Views on what?
Like what? What did he stand for?
The reason I didn't vote for him is because I don't live there, and that's illegal. I know a Democrat mind don't understand that.
But it's funny you say that because he didn't live in Georgia either. He had a house there, and it's funny.
Is a better man than what you have here. Herschel Walker
How
never
do you
beat his
know
wife.
that?
Herschel Walker didn't try to have
I'm asking you
sex
how.
with kids.
Stephen, I've asked you how 100 times and you haven't said anything.
He's
You just
not
keep
going
babbling in
to.
circles.
Yeah.
Because he
Beat his
adopted
and
the
so I'm
America
gonna move
First.
on.
Because
Anti-abortion.
Adina, he adopted the America First standard for this country. He wanted to do
What
things that
the
was
hell
good
does
for the
that mean?
ordinary
That doesn't
person.
mean that's propaganda.
It's not propaganda.
Tell me what was his plan
He's
for
one of
taxes?
Donald
What's his
Trump's
tax
guys.
plan?
Wait a minute, Adina. He's one
What's
of
his
Donald
tax
Trump's
plan?
people. He's for America First. He's one of Donald Trump's hand-picked
What is
selection.
that?
Did you know that?
Donald Trump had no platform. That's not telling me anything.
Donald
He has no
Trump has a
platform.
platform. America First.
What does that mean? You live in what is America?
You stop the war on oil.
Flag.
That means you stop spending so much money. That means you stop doing the things that Biden has done to hurt this country. Biden supporter.
Stephen, come on now. If you're gonna pull things out your ass, at least know what you're talking about. Don't just give me that fluff, man. Stop it.
Leave it in there.
I'm gonna pull your head out my ass.
Here,
don't you
this is for
dare
you,
pull
Steven.
anything out
This
of there in the air.
This is for you. This is Herschel Walker's platform. Wipe your ass with it, Steven, because I'm not listening to that
don't you
bull
dare.
crap.
Steven, don't you dare pull anything out of your butt while you're on the air.
That's why they had to do another. That's why they had to do a recall. That's why they had to do it over again.
Recall, man. Stop. Stop.
Don't
Steven,
you dare pull anything out of your butt while you're in the air.
They had to revote.
I keep
you were wrong, Steven.
Over and over again.
It's called a recount.
You know what? You know why y'all saying I'm wrong about him? Because I've been right about everything. And I know it chaps your little asses. And I've been right about everything. If anybody has watched this show or listened to past shows, I have not been wrong. You know what? Herschel Walker was winning.
You just said Herschel Walker was going to win.
We're celebrating the fact.
You said Herschel Walker was going to win. He lost.
It's going to be a red wave.
You said Trump was going to win. He lost. Trump lost.
Me and Keith were celebrating. I wasn't wrong.
Why are you so? Why are you so red?
Go Herschel. Go Herschel. We didn't say he was going to win.
Hey,
we said it looks like he's going to win because he has the numbers.
It's 8:30. To my audience, it's 8:30. It's time for Steven's temper tantrum. Here he goes.
Steven.
Before I get old.
Steven. Okay. Don't you dare pull anything out of your butt on the air.
It's 8:30. It's time for the meltdown. The Steven meltdown on cue, 8:30 every time. Good job.
I keep saying,
Steven,
don't you dare pull anything out of your butt on the air.
Kristen Sinema as a potential 2024 run creates anxiety in the Senate, especially after she just changed her party. She's no longer Democratic. Cousin Todd, do you want to talk to how that affects the Senate?
Well,
I don't blame her.
She was not to be trusted anyway. Between Sinema and Manchin, they were they wouldn't do things that Democrats needed them to do. Like, for example, they would hold out because they're Republicans anyway. They're Democrat in name only. So they would hold out, and which I knew Sinema was going to change parties sooner or later. And she did that so that she wouldn't be primary. And so now she's independent, in other words, Republican. And she did that selfishly, but that's okay because, I forget this man that's going to run against her in 2 years. I forget his name. But I'm trying to remember his name, but I can't. But nevertheless, she's going to lose in 2 years. So she's going to get all she can now and make all of her connections. You know how Republicans love to make connections. So she can leave this job and make some real money.
So, Keith,
it is interesting because by her being independent in this Senate, I mean, because Warnock won, she's not a swing vote. So by being independent, she may be able to negotiate with the Republicans a little bit more, but at the same time, it may not matter because they still have the tiebreaker with the vice president. So it's kind of a power play for her a little bit, just in case she wants to run. And to Todd's point about being primary, again, make no mistake, this is all about the next election.
Yes.
So it's like, again, if a senator, unlike a Congress or someone in the House, the senators are primarily millionaires already. They already make a lot of money to be a senator, right? So it's more so about positioning, influence, and power as you move on.
Not when you get out. When you get out, what are you going to do? You got to be able to get a job that makes good money, which is what she's in there doing now.
Right.
And she'll be
Keith,
out in 2 years.
Let me bring Keith in. Keith, for Kristen Sinema to change, if you can see this article by CNN.com, it says her surprise decision to become an independent
Surprise.
has Democratic leaders struggling to answer basic question. How should they deal with her if she runs for re-election? Keith,
Well,
how should they deal with her?
Well, it's interesting to note that nobody brought this up, but you don't leave the Democrat Party unless you have it's amazing that anyone who leaves the Democrat Party and moves to the right of it is sending a message that the Democrats have pretty much lost it. They may have gone further left than what she wants to go. I'm not saying she's now a conservative, but the fact that she left the Democrats, are very progressive, means that maybe they've gone too far. And so I don't know why people don't get that message, but that's beyond me.
Stephen?
Yeah, I think she's smart. Basically, I'm not trying to equate her to a rat, but it's like a rat jumping off a sinking ship. And that's what the Democrat Party is right now. They're being exposed, and they could be more exposed. Just right now, it's just with Twitter and Elon Musk. And he's exposing them and everything that's in for the past few years.
Why are they a sinking ship?
So it's a good Democrat Party. They know they're in a lot of trouble right now.
And this is the echo chamber.
Very
this is the echo chamber because let's have an educated debate on this show, right? The Democratic Party, you had an unpopular president, an unpopular Democratic president, not lose power in a midterm for the first time since FDR, right? So since the first time since FDR, our president,
because it was
not popular, didn't lose the Senate and only lost a couple of seats in the House.
Unheard
and to say that somehow this equates to a sinking ship. If you looked at Biden's agenda, whether you agree with it or not, he's moving legislation, he's governing, right? You may not believe in his positions, but to sit here and say, hey, you know what? He's doing a horrible job and the economy's in the hole and all this, that's not true. Yeah, we don't like gas prices. Yeah, we don't like inflation, but it was going to be this way anyway coming out of a pandemic. We look at, first thing we got to do if we want to be serious about, a debate on anything in the country, and let's be honest. Let's talk specific issues. Let's not sit here and just spew out propaganda because it's a popularity contest. Look at issue by issue. The Republicans failed tremendously in this.
Your propaganda.
No. Look at the votes. The Republicans failed tremendously in this midterm, primarily because they were running candidates like Herschel Walker, and they have grievance. You're coming on here, this show is an example of that. You just have grievance. You're just angry. You don't have a position. You just want somebody else that's not this person in office. And that's what's running the country in the ground.
It's not like Stephen.
Unless it was stolen.
The FBI is interrupting you, Stephen.
Elections have been stolen.
Okay, Stephen, I've been asking.
My face up.
But only Democrats steal elections. Republicans don't steal elections.
I've been asking you all questions, and you're like not listening. So, Stephen, have you noticed that when you go to the supermarket, the prices of items that you buy in the supermarket each item is up $1 whole.
Is this a round table question?
No, it's not. How have you dealt with that financially, Stephen?
I don't have financial issues like a lot of people in this country do, and a lot of people around the world have financial issues and bad. Of that, I'm doing pretty good. People that are
all right, you're breaking up.
But it's the policies of Joe, and this is why they're the biggest pariah, the biggest problem, the most worst thing that's ever happened to Democrats have been years. And all of that's being exposed right now, partially because of Elon Musk and what he's doing with Trump. Does nobody understand what I'm talking about?
No, we don't.
No.
Neither do you. Okay, so
Keith, let me ask you. Let me put it this way, Keith. I go to a supermarket
and
I've noticed
you're ignorant or you're.
No, I use coupons. All you had to say, Stephen, is use coupons.
So I
You're
go
an
to the
independent thinker.
supermarket. I go to the supermarket.
75% of this country does not agree with the way we're going in this country. Them people, we did not.
Yeah, and I think 35% of this country is real smart, right? They're real smart.
Guess what? I go to the supermarket and I get these Amoroso rolls that are very popular here in Philadelphia, and they make them the rolls for cheesesteaks and all sorts of sandwiches. And I love their club rolls, and they were like $3.50. Now they're $4.50, and that makes a difference in my bill. That means I can't get maybe 2 packs of those club rolls every time I go. I get one, and this inching up on sending the extra money to the consumer through the supermarket is not good, and it's going to make people like me, like I've done, have to get 1 pack of Amoroso rolls instead of 2. Keith, have you noticed that in California, and what do you think can stop it?
Well, you know, all I do is basically discipline myself. You know, me personally, that's what I do. My wife, she complains every time she comes to from the market, the supermarket. And there's this, I call it's a banana nut loaf of bread. It's really awesome. It's zucchini bread. I buy zucchini bread, a slice. It's a nice thick slice. I used to buy it for $4.30 something. Now it's $8.40 something.
Gosh.
So
that's crazy. For bread.
But yeah, this is California though, you guys.
Let's make this our round table, and then Keith, we're gonna keep going with you in terms of the tridemic. There is COVID.
You didn't ask me about the supermarket, Stacy. I got coupons here. If there's something I can't afford, I don't buy it. I only drive one car. I'm looking at hybrids. There's all kind of stuff I'm doing to get around. I'm a capitalist.
This is the round table. I said we're adding it. We're starting with Keith. We're getting
he wanted to answer the poor people's question about food.
That's coming. It's coming. He still can. He still can. It's not over.
I was making a joke.
There's another coupon. I got coupons here. There's all kind of stuff.
Excuse me. So if you look at the screen, I'm showing you the CNN article talking about this is a part of our roundtable across the country. An overflow healthcare workers are struggling to catch their breath as hospitals feel sick of patients battling a trifecta of respiratory illnesses, COVID-19, RSV, and the flu. The CDC is saying mask up. Keith, that's the second part of the question. What can we do to help protect our healthcare workers, Keith? And then the same questions to Stephen, then Aguna, then Cousin Todd. Go ahead, Keith.
Well, first thing we can do is look to the Lord for our healing and our strength. We need to cite God's word. God's word is Jesus is the healer. And we need to say that Jesus Christ is above COVID. His blood that was shed for us can protect us. And when God says that if you obey my voice and keep my commands, I will put none of these diseases on you that I put on the Egyptians. And that is a fact. God is true. And I believe that. That's why. And I haven't gotten COVID. Knock on wood, knock on the Lord's door. And that's not to say that I never will. It's just to say that I have trusted God since the beginning, and I'll continue to trust.
Have you ever been sick? Have you ever been sick in your life?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever been sick in your life? Okay, then did you trust God? Did he protect you from that sickness?
What did I just say? I said, if I got it, I would still trust him. Okay, so would you jump off a bridge and trust him to catch you? What we could also do is protect our health by getting plenty of vitamin C, vitamin D, and get herbs and nutrients through our vegetables, because I eat more of a plant-based diet anyway. But I think that we can those are natural vaccines, but if you could replicate the same thing in a vaccine, you wouldn't get that created by man
through the power of God.
We can keep our immune system strong by eating the proper dosage of vegetables and fruit. And that is a very good fact. It is also proven by science. So I think that's important.
Okay.
Who created
Steven.
the vaccine, God or man? Who created the vaccine? Did God create the vaccine?
Yeah, God created the ingredients that create the vaccine. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Steven. First groceries, and then the trifecta of COVID, RSV, and the flu, and how we can keep our people who are sick in hospitals and nursing homes safe.
What the heck is Steven doing?
Steven is gone.
Yeah, you're on mute. Trust in the Lord to unmute you. Trust in the Lord to unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
It has always been all three of those illnesses, but for political reasons, they just said it was COVID-19. I believe in God, and I believe in herd immunity, and that's what helps people. Not a mask, not new things that we're doing like that. It's just if you get sick, then your body builds up stuff to keep you from getting sick next time. This is how our bodies work thousands of years. And generally, normal people do not go around wearing a mask when people are getting sick. People get the flu and they're okay. People get colds, they're okay. People get COVID, they're okay. They don't even have any symptoms sometimes. But some people that are highly susceptible to that will die of any three of these things, any kind of respiratory, any kind of something. And this is why we're still brainwashed about COVID. This is why everybody sounds so stupid about COVID, because and wearing a mask and doing stuff like this, it sounds so stupid because the people who are the most vulnerable get sick the worst, or they die. And these shots that they're given, not good. And if you're still putting shots and you're still pushing a mask, then you don't understand science. I'm not the one that's wrong now. I'm the one that's been right. The quacks and the idiots and the one who are trying to deceive us on purpose are the ones who are wrong. I wasn't wrong. I have not been wrong on this subject. Now, a lot of people are getting hurt from these shots. They're getting heart issues, especially young men are getting heart issues after they get these shots. And these are all facts. This is all scientific. This is driven by doctors.
I don't see any medical degrees back there behind your fake piano there. I don't see a medical degree over there near your fake piano, Steven. Is there a medical degree over there?
I think every degree you have, I think you should give them all back. If you don't believe what I'm saying,
can you name what I have? You don't know what I have. You don't even know what I have.
Steven, can you go to groceries?
You don't know anything,
Aguna.
Go to college.
Okay, Steven, go to groceries, please.
They were nice enough to give you something.
That panel for fraternity.
Steven, go to groceries, please.
Well, what do you want me to say about groceries, Stacey?
Okay, then you said what you had to say about groceries, that you don't have that problem. So you already said it, right?
Yeah.
So let's go to
Aguna. I can afford groceries, and I'm like Aguna. I'm smart about what I do. I'm like we're smart about what we do. We don't go out there and do stupid stuff. I buy stuff in bulk. I do what I have to do, but I'm not sweating. And plus, you have to prep, and you have to head. And if people don't see things coming from years away, and people who like me who say you better prepare, then if you don't prepare, it's not my problem. And if things go up and they get higher, well, I've got an abundance of whatever at certain levels. It's just it's people need to take care of themselves and not on the government.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Stacey.
Yeah, so as far as the pandemic, I mean, again, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, you should wear a mask, you shall, mandates and stuff like that. I was for mandates early when it was more so just in one small window of time where, like, if you're in elementary school and if we were all quiet, we can all go to recess. Just the same thing. It was only temporary. It's not like they're going to come in there and it's, I know people are scared of China, but you see what's going on in China. Not like that. Okay, just A. And if you're susceptible, if you have an immune deficiency, it is your personal preference or choice to wear a mask, to get a vaccine, do what you got to do. All right, leave it between you. Now, the only other thing is don't come in my house and not wash your hands and do all that other nasty stuff and then think that it's just the Lord that's going to prevent you from getting germs and all this other stuff. That's ridiculous. The Lord also put
People who
preventative
believe in
measures
God
in
wash
place
their
for
hands.
us to use. All right, science, engineering, math, those are things that the Lord instilled in us that we can use to apply to the betterment of man. So all this other nonsense is a bunch of crap. As far as groceries, all right, Stephen is right. You can get very creative. We as Americans are sometimes spoiled, right? We want things, the banana nut bread that keep eats and all that other stuff is not a right, it's a privilege. And as a consumer, if I think that something's too expensive, I don't buy it. I get something else. I can get generic. I can do all kind of different options in order to drive down the price of that particular good or service. Now, I can also, as an individual citizen, buy stock and invest in certain foods and things like that. Therefore, I own it, right? So when other people have to pay more for it, I'm actually getting a profit from it as well. Because in America, we can own stuff. You can own a business. You can be an entrepreneur. You have choices. You have preferences. You have options. Now, not eating out, it's going to be a pain because I know I like certain restaurants I like to go to. But if I don't have to eat out, get into debt and do certain things for a certain period of time until the economy bounces back, until prices go down, I'm okay with doing that. And I'm okay with getting multiple streams of income, investing, getting another job, those type of things to supplement my income, getting income when I sleep. But the problem with Americans, we don't educate ourselves around those things. So a lot of times we rely on the government to influence the economy, create the opportunity where we can create that ourselves, right? So it's one of those things where, yeah, the government can do so much, but as an individual, especially in this country, you have so much liberty and freedom to really go out there and make so much more money that you don't even have to worry about this stuff happening to you. It's just, you just got to be creative and you got to be able to do it. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
Thank you, Cousin Todd.
Okay. The food situation, I don't notice the prices really. I just don't. So, then again, I don't eat a lot. As far as the masking situation, if you have someone in your home who is more vulnerable, wear a mask. It's as simple as that. When you're out in the street, you don't have to wear a mask. But when you're in close
What do you mean
quarters,
when you're out in the street? When you're in a store, out in the street, like
out,
Costco or Sam's
out
Club?
in the street. Sam's Club is not in the street. Sam's Club is a store that you go into.
So you mean when you're out in the park, you don't have to wear a mask. Make yourself clear.
I'm making myself clear, but you're a Trump supporter, so it'll never be clear for you. Now, so
I'm not a Trump supporter.
As far as Stephen talking about the shots kill people and makes people sick, I'm going to send you this book. And maybe you can read it a little bit and you'll learn.
You're not going to read it if it's not the real Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
If it's not the real Dr. Fauci, you got 1984.
I'm going to send you this book. And you read this book because you're not a physician, Stephen.
Why don't you read this book?
Oh my God!
What is that?
God.
I'm not going to read porn.
Constitution of the United.
I'm not going to read porn. What is that? A porno magazine? No, ma'am.
Constitution
I'm not going to do
United
that.
States.
Send that book to Stephen. So, nevertheless,
Constitution is porn to Todd.
Yeah, you heard him, Stephen. You heard him.
Okay. Yeah, of course. You heard him, Stephen. All you have to say is porn, and Stephen's ears perk right up. And so does Keith's. Anyway, that's it.
Hey, what? Stacey, can I make a quick Stacey?
Yes, go ahead.
Real quick statement. Here's my statement. I want everybody to hear this.
You want to get married to Stephen, right?
Exodus chapter 15, verse 26. If you will listen to the voice of the Lord, your God, and obey it and do what is right, then I will make none of you will suffer the diseases I sent on the Egyptians. And, you know, it's really interesting. You still get sick, but people want to say, oh, because you still get sick, oh, that God is not a God of his word. Well, that's not true, because there's still many natural, as Aguna said, there are many natural things that we do that bring sickness upon ourselves.
Right.
So
And
all I'm saying
also,
you should be more educated in how you conduct yourself. You don't need a mask if you are
I
healthy.
think he's talking about a spiritual.
And what's
Okay.
what
you.
Keith
We're
left out is he
I
got
think they're talking
We're
about
out
the
of time.
shot.
sickness.
He
So-
got the
So our
shot.
first responders in our
He got
community,
the shots.
But
thank you. You
Stephen
make
didn't.
our
The
lives
Lord shall
livable.
give you
To our women
vaccine
and
shot.
men of the U.S. military for all that you do in sacrificing your lives so
No
that we are
locust,
free to
no
do
locust will
whatever we
fall down
choose
upon
to
Keith.
do. We are forever indebted. On behalf of Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative,
He used
Stephen,
cocoa butter today. I'm proud of you, Keith.
Stephen, the independent thinker,
Give me a break. Now you know good and well. He's the Fox News thinker.
The maniac
and my
with the
cousin
mullet.
Todd.
Camo beanie. Is that a turtleneck?
I'm Stacey Johnson. Let's keep this
No.
conversation going. You can check us out. Please like
Oh,
and subscribe to us
That's an
on
ascot.
our YouTube. Wait a
Like
minute.
Fred off of
On our,
Scooby-Doo.
excuse me.
It's not
Hello.
an
Scooby-Doo
ascot.
On
version
our,
of Tom.
Is that a dicky?
wait, excuse me.
All right, sorry.
Please like and
We're enamored
subscribe to
by
us
Todd's
on
fashion.
Sporlitiks at YouTube. Check us out on Stephanie Stallworth's The Flow television network. You can catch our videos on YouTube. Like and subscribe to Sporlitiks. Also, we're on Twitch and Twitter. And check out our Instagram page on Instagram to see what all of us are doing when we are not on the show. I'm sorry I couldn't be seen today. I had eye surgery yesterday, but we will be back next week, raring and ready to go.
Well, you could have been seen really today because Stephen had his surgery and he came back. And I didn't ask you.
Good night.
How are you doing, Stephen, after your surgery?
Doing tremendous.
I don't know, Steven. You all right, Stephen? You bouncing back?
Doing tremendous. Yeah. Doing all right.
Are you okay after all that surgery?
I had an addictomy. I had an
Right.
addictomy. Now I feel like a man.
All right.
What the hell?
Night.
Yeah.
I thought you had a sex change operation.